Welcome to Module 3 of the Transition to Bio package to increase capacity and support member states and regions in increasing bioeconomy awareness, communication, education, and stakeholders engagement. In Module 2, you were presented with good practices and replicable formats to inspire, assess, inform, and educate, engage, and co-create in the field of bioeconomy. The aim of this module is to guide you through the preparatory phases and planning of communication and awareness raising and stakeholders engagement activities. This presentation is intended to offer support to organizations beginning their journey in the field of raising awareness about bioeconomy among the entire society, educating present and future consumers, entrepreneurs, and policymakers about bioeconomy, bio-based products and their benefits, delivering an effective and meaningful communication on bioeconomy through many different channels, as well as increasing stakeholders' engagement to co-create solutions to the bioeconomy uptake. The module consists of 4 sections: the introduction to awareness raising, communication, and stakeholders engagement, focusing on the first steps that you need to take before you start planning your communication, awareness raising, and stakeholders engagement activities, the methodologies to drive the systemic mindset change, methodologies to facilitate the planning of communication and stakeholders engagement activities, and methodologies to facilitate stakeholders debate and co-creation. If you have no previous experience with this type of activities, or you are new to the topic of bioeconomy, some preparatory work should be done before you actually start planning your communication, awareness raising, and stakeholders engagement activities. The reason is that the content of these activities, as well as the way how you will conduct them, will depend on your target audiences. You may want, for example, to communicate what bioeconomy is and what its benefits are to kids and young people. In this case, showing them with pictures or samples of available biomaterials and bio-based products can be a very attractive but also efficient way. In addition to that, you can organize simple experiments to let them feel, touch, and smell the bioeconomy. However, in case you would like to inspire local entrepreneurs to start using biomaterials, you will not only need to show them some examples of available materials and their application, but also to provide them with some technical data. In this case, discussion with researchers, but maybe also with other businesses may be necessary. So, before you actually start planning your communication, awareness raising, and stakeholders engagement activities, you should evaluate the situation and level of bioeconomy development in the country, including legislative framework, economic performance, and public perception of bioeconomy, map the key stakeholders, understand the needs, motivation, and interests of your target groups, and together with the stakeholders, identify and discuss relevant challenges and barriers to the full development of the bioeconomy. Understanding the status of bioeconomy in your country will greatly help you in defining the purpose or the why of your communication, awareness raising, and stakeholder engagement activities. Indeed, various contexts require various strategies with diverse messages, channels, and stakeholders. It's a big difference if you work, for example, within the frames of a 2-year project, the aim of which is to educate kids and young people as future consumers. Of course, it's a completely different situation if you are a public authority planning to develop a regional bioeconomy strategy. There are various sources of information you can use to evaluate and assess the status of bioeconomy in your country or region. To learn more about the trends and indicators, you can use the EU Bioeconomy Monitoring System, which provides a comprehensive overview of European trends and indicators related to EU bioeconomy. The set of indicators is organized according to a conceptual framework that allows the full coverage of the EU bioeconomy, including the value chain steps, sustainability pillars, and primary production sectors. The indicators may be browsed according to the EU bioeconomy strategy objectives, the Sustainable Development Goals, but also European Green Deal priorities. To have a more precise visualization about the bioeconomy's development in a certain country, the EU has developed another interesting tool, which is the Bioeconomy Country Dashboard, providing country-specific economic and legislative data on bioeconomy. In this tool, you can find information about strategies and initiatives, such as countries' bioeconomy definition or country strategies on bioeconomy at a national, regional, and also local level. You can find there also economic data, such as the turnover of a bioeconomy sector or the employment rate of a bioeconomy sector, bioenergy production, for example, biomass for electric energy or biomass for thermal purposes, and also information about algae production. The next tool is the technical report developed by the JRC, estimating employment and value added in the bioeconomy of EU regions. This report provides a methodological proposal to estimate employment and value added of the bioeconomy sectors at the regional level in the EU. And the last tool I would like to mention, the analysis produced by the Biowaste project, published in 2017. And this project created a survey on the public perception of bioeconomy, covering 6 groups of questions, which include, for example, level of public awareness and engagement with bio-based products, public confidence in bio-based products and the reasons for using them or not using them, or public perception of the benefits of using bio-based products. Having conducted the research, you should have a good picture of the economic development of the bioeconomy in your country or region and understanding of what the most promising bioeconomy sectors are. You should also have a clear understanding of the authorities that oversee the development of bioeconomy. And you should also have a clear picture of who the main actors are, what their strategies are at the national, regional, and local level. And you should also be able to see the gaps between the strategies adopted and the results achieved. Last but not least, you should also be able to understand the public perception of bioeconomy and have data regarding the level of awareness, education, and information in your country. The success of your work will now depend on the proper planning of your communication, awareness raising, and stakeholders engagement activities. The strategy, of course, will be different if you work within the frames of a 2-year project, the aim of which is to educate young people and kids as future consumers. In this case, you have the given time frame, and you will probably define a few objectives of your activities and create a plan including a few types of activities that you will use to achieve this objective. On the other hand, if you're a public authority or a community leader whose aim is to facilitate transition of a region towards bioeconomy, the strategy will need to be more complex, covering different target groups, and of course relying on different formats and activities to deliver the right messages to the specific target groups included in the strategy, and achieve the objective of creating a community of inspired, educated, and also engaged stakeholders and community members who will be willing to collaborate on the common or shared objective to ensure transition towards a bioeconomy in the region. The first methodology included in this module, the methodology to drive the systemic mindset change. The model you can see on the picture, you know already from the previous module 2. The bioeconomy circle provides a list of actions you can undertake to boost the uptake of bioeconomy in your country or community. These actions are grouped into 3 main dimensions, which are further divided into 5 actions. The 3 dimensions are bio what, bio how, and bio act, and reflect the level of maturity of bioeconomy in your region, as well as the level of knowledge and experience of your stakeholders with bioeconomy. To choose the appropriate dimension, you will need to know the context of your country or region, as it was explained before. For example, if bioeconomy is a relatively new term in your country and the stakeholders you plan to work with have a very low level of bioeconomy and no previous experience with it, you will probably have to start with the bio what dimension and focus your activities on explaining what bioeconomy is, sharing inspirational stories, or helping them understand what are the main drivers or barriers for bioeconomy development in the region. If, on the other hand, bioeconomy is well established in your country and the stakeholders you work with have a good level of understanding of what a bioeconomy is, what are the main barriers, but also drivers and opportunities for its development, you can invite them to work together and create specific solutions for further development of bioeconomy. The three dimensions are further divided into 5 groups, as I mentioned before: inspire, assess, inform and educate, engage, and co-create. So if you understand the context in your country or region, you can use this model to choose the right dimension and group of actions to start working with your stakeholders and define the strategy. So to sum it up, to plan your communication, awareness raising, or stakeholders engagement activities, you need to consider the following points: the development of bioeconomy at the country level, but also regional level, the target audience you would like to reach. So different actions are more effective with people with a low level and experience with bioeconomy, while other types of actions are suitable to audiences with a good level of knowledge or even experts in the field of bioeconomy. The specific objectives of your actions. So what do you want to achieve? Is it inspiring young people to think about a career in bioeconomy, or engaging local stakeholders to create a regional bioeconomy strategy or action plan? And last but not least, you also have to consider the resources, such as financial or human resources, and the context in which you will develop. So no matter if you work on a communication awareness raising or stakeholders engagement strategy for a 2-year project working with only one target audience, or if you are a representative of a public authority aiming to create a complex strategy targeting several target groups, this tool can help you identify the starting point to define the structure of activities or the combination of the activities you can involve in the strategy to help you move from one dimension to the next one. For more inspiration about specific activities and formats, you can watch the video of Module 2, which presents examples of good practices and replicable formats for each actions presented in this module. The second part of this module focuses on the methodologies to facilitate the planning of communication and stakeholders engagement activities. These methodologies are useful in specifying the plan of your communication and stakeholder engagement activities. As has been hinted at before, the one-size-fits-all rule doesn't apply to communication, neither to stakeholders engagement activities. Instead, you should always keep in mind who your target audience is and adjust the content as well as the formats to be used. This tool will help you reflect on who your stakeholders are or who your target audiences are, define the purpose of your activities, as well as specify the key messages and choose the best formats. Basically, it can help you structure the ideas for communication and stakeholders engagement using 5 simple questions that are similar to the questions mentioned in the first part. This tool can be used as a brainstorming tool by an individual within a small team, but it can also be used during events, as it is a good way to start a discussion and to brainstorm with your participants and design together the best strategy to communicate and engage stakeholders. Let's start with a very simple example. Imagine you would like to raise a generation of people working in different professions related to the economy. The general question used to define the purpose of your communication and stakeholders activities would be how to attract students to bioeconomic careers. First, we will answer the question in the first column, which is what for. This question refers to the main purpose of your activities, and in order to ensure a new generation of professionals in bioeconomy, you may need to attract the attention of young people or students and raise the awareness about what the professions in the bioeconomy actually are. The second question to be answered is to or with whom. This question will make you think about the target group you want to reach. In our example, it can be young people of different ages or more specifically students. The organizations that can potentially support you in delivering your message and help you to reach the target group could be students' organizations, teachers, but also influencers. The question in the third column is what? This question will help you define the content or what exactly you want to communicate to the students. Keep in mind that the answer follows the previous two questions, so what for and to or with whom. In our example, the what may include information about various professions in the bioeconomy and what exactly they look like. The question how in the fourth column will take you a step further to understand clearly what activities, channels, and methodologies will you use to reach your target audience. In the case of young people, you may consider creating videos or testimonials and also engaging inspirational influencers. This content can be shared, for example, via social media or even during discussions at schools. And the last question, or when, refers to time to answer it. You must reflect on the time frame of your activity and the periodicity. So will it be one standalone event, or will it be conducted periodically? So this question will make you reflect also on the time needed to prepare the activity, to engage the required stakeholders, and to deliver the message. Of course, organizations usually do not work with only one target audience. Also, in this case, the metrics can be very helpful, as it can help you realize that the communication, awareness raising, and stakeholders engagement activities need to be adjusted to each target group specifically. By using these metrics, you can basically structure your ideas according to the different target groups. In our second example, the general question is how to empower other organizations in communication, awareness raising, stakeholder engagement activities to accelerate adoption of bioeconomy. In this case, we assume that we are talking to organizations who conduct communication, awareness raising, and stakeholder engagement activities and work with different target groups. This usually results from the project and the scope of your activities defined in the proposal, but also it can be defined by the mission and core activities of your organization. In our example, the main target groups identified include kids and youth, adults, teachers, non-governmental organizations, and civil society organizations and businesses. Second question to be answered will be what for, or what is the purpose of the communication activity. As you can see, there have been different purposes identified per each target group. In the case of kids and youth, it could be educate future consumers. In the case of adults, it could be drive lifestyle change. In the case of teachers, it could be empower teachers to teach bioeconomy at schools. Third question to be answered is what? So what is the content to be communicated to these target groups? Then you will continue with the question in the fourth column, which is how. So what are the activities, formats, channels, and methodologies to be used? And the last question is when, or the time frame and periodicity. So if we look at the first target group, the kids and youth, we have identified the purpose, educate future consumers. The what to be communicated to this target group could be what is bioeconomy, what are its benefits, what are the bio-based products available on the market, and what are the benefits of these products. The formats, activities, and channels to be used can include, for example, pictures and samples of products that can be showcased in exhibitions. You can also include experiments or showing different inspirational stories via social media. The time frame will, of course, depend also on the conditions of your project or the general initiative you want to implement. When we look at the group of teachers, The main purpose could be empower them to teach bioeconomy at schools. Here, the content, of course, will depend on the age. In the case of younger kids, you can focus on creating materials. The how or the content to empower teachers could include developing teaching materials, but also trainings to educate them about the bioeconomy, to help them feel confident in teaching bioeconomy, but also provide them with tools they can use in creating the structure of their lessons, but also a selection of various activities that can be used in the class. The time frame is determined by the mission and activities of your organization, as well as available resources. Our third example illustrates how the metrics can be used in group discussions or events. In this specific case, the tool was used to exchange experience and information about projects, initiatives, and challenges related to bioeconomy, where communication, awareness raising, and stakeholders' engagement can play an important role. During this online workshop, several organizations working in the field of bioeconomy and conducting communication, awareness raising, and stakeholders engagement activities participated. As you can see, also in this case, several target groups were identified, and the metrics was used to structure the answers to the 5 questions according to the target groups. Let's have a closer look at only one of them. So one of the target groups identified were the policymakers and public authorities. The purpose was increase awareness toward bioeconomy initiatives that can be delivered locally. The content or the what to be communicated included delivering information about the best practices and the success cases from other regions. As for the formats and channels to be used, for example, events in which such best practices can be presented were proposed, as well as providing data about the situation at the local level to better understand where the starting point is, but also organizing of focus groups to discuss in more detail what the options for the region could be. To get the most from the 2 tools presented in this module, it would be logical to combine them. By adding the 5 dimensions to the planning metrics, it allows you to plan your communication, awareness raising, and stakeholders engagement activities throughout the different levels of knowledge and sensibilization about bioeconomy, which means that you can divide your target groups according to the level of knowledge and experience with bioeconomy and select the most appropriate dimension and group of actions to be conducted. In practice, if you are in a country where the awareness level of knowledge and experience with bioeconomy is low, you may need to start planning your communication, awareness raising, or stakeholder engagement activities from the by what dimension and focus on the inspire group of actions, which means that you will need to get the interest and attention of your target audience. Later on, you can conduct some educational or even engagement activities, and as the level of knowledge about bioeconomy increases, you may start planning the co-creation activities, designing step by step how to boost the bioeconomy in a region or in a country. Let's imagine that you would like to empower local leaders or local authorities in addressing local actors such as farmers, local authorities, or citizens, and promote the adoption of climate change solutions. You can ask your participants to identify the main target groups or target audiences they need to address. For this purpose, you can use a separate sheet of paper in a physical meeting where the participants will put the sticky notes, or if you work online, you can use a separate space in the online board. In this case, or in this example, the target groups identified can include farmers, local authorities, citizens, NGOs, as well as businesses. In the next step, your participants can start thinking what the level of knowledge about bioeconomy, but also climate change in case of each target group is. Based on that, the target group or the sticky note with the target group can be put to the respective row in the matrix. In the next step, you can decide about the purpose of the activities per each target group. In the case of the NGOs, whose level of knowledge is very high, the purpose could be to involve them in co-creation activities. On the other hand, in the case of farmers, it can be the purpose can be to educate them about the impacts of climate change and the potential role of bioeconomy. In the next step, your participants can start thinking about the specific content or the key messages to be communicated to each target group. So in the case of the farmers, it could be information and data about the status quo, about the main challenges, some potential solutions. On the other hand, in the case of the NGOs, it can be some information about a project or a strategy that is planned at the regional level. As for the formats, the participants can decide to organize some kind of training for the farmers, but also to share data about the status quo in the region, what are the main barriers and the main challenges, and also share some good practices and examples implemented in other regions. On the other hand, the NGOs can be already invited to some co-creation sessions in which the local or regional strategy can be designed. When it comes to time frame, in order to achieve the objectives, so to promote the adoption of climate change solutions across different target groups, probably more time will be needed, so the organizations can plan longer-term projects or interventions. As you can see, the double metrics can be used not only within an internal team, but also in group settings during events. In both cases, it is important to collect as much information as possible during a session to collect various opinions and ideas, and only then the ideas can be sorted and analyzed to obtain a more structured picture of the possible strategy of your communication, awareness raising, and stakeholder engagement activities. From this, you can create an ideal strategy for communicating and stakeholder engagement. Also, you need to take into consideration that if you are in a country where the awareness and knowledge about the bioeconomy is low, you may need to plan the strategy from the basic bio what dimension. Step by step, you can move forward towards the bio how dimension. And as the level of knowledge increases and bioeconomy becomes well established, you may start planning co-creation activities that fall under the most advanced dimension, the BioAct. The last section of Module 3 is focused on the topic of how to organize multi-stakeholder debates and co-creation events. In this section, two different tools that are a result of two past projects, BioVoices and BioBridges, will be presented. Although these tools are specifically designed to address challenges related to enhancing the market uptake of bio-based products, they are used to illustrate how such multi-stakeholder debates can be designed. So why is it important to organize multi-stakeholder debates and co-creation events? The transition towards bioeconomy is a paradigm shift that affects the whole economy and encompasses highly complex processes. And it also depends on the active collaboration of a broad range of stakeholders. An efficient way how to ensure the collaboration of different stakeholder groups can be ensured by applying the mobilization and mutual learning approach. The approach can be applied to various types of events in which the quadruple helix actors participate, so the representatives of policymakers, academia and research, businesses and civil society, and in which all actors are committed to solving complex problems based on sharing different perspectives, ideas, knowledge, and experience in open dialogues. Such events allow to broaden the network of people engaged in the bioeconomy, increase a shared understanding, and create actionable knowledge, which means to identify potential solutions for the challenges and find a strategy and an action perspective for the participants. However, bringing together a variety of stakeholders with different starting points, level of knowledge, as well as an understanding of the topic represents a great challenge. The aim of the following slides is to guide you through the process of preparation of a mobilization and mutual learning event. In the preparation of such an event, it's important to consider several aspects. These can be grouped under three basic questions: the what, the who, and the how. The what means that you need to formulate a clear topic, in other words, define problems or challenges that are relevant and motivating, as well as shared by all participants, and require further understanding to formulate potential solutions. It is also crucial to define the main stakeholders and strategies for ensuring the main stakeholders' participation in the event. The how question covers different aspects of organizing and mobilization and mutual learning event. As mentioned before, for each mobilization and mutual learning event, you need to choose the topic or challenge that is the most relevant for the region or country. The topic or challenge needs to be broad and complex enough so that it requires multi-stakeholder debate to make progress. Moreover, it is advisable also to frame the challenges across different sustainability pillars, such as the environmental, societal, and economic. First, it is important to generate an understanding of the problem and to gather knowledge of the local regional conditions and challenges. If you are new to the topic, it is advisable to start with the initial research, such as we described in the first part of this module. And to dive deeper, it is recommended to approach the so-called problem awareness. From them, you can collect the information either through desk research or through a network and sending a questionnaire or directly interviewing these persons. Problem owners could be, for example, policymakers who want to implement a circular bioeconomy action plan but face constraints from the community, or a startup which has developed an innovative bio-based product and would like to establish a collaboration with potential buyers. In addition to that, it is also important to define what you want to achieve. In other words, what is the expected outcome and output from the event. This is important to have a focused and meaningful dialogue that actually sets change in motion. The output refers to the results which are achieved immediately after implementing the activity, for example, after the event. If the event is organized within an initiative to develop a regional bioeconomy strategy, the output can be a report from the event summarizing the key findings. The outcome, on the other hand, can be seen as longer-term results, such as the list of follow-up activities to be carried out by specific participants of the event. The expected outcomes are strictly related to the main challenge to be addressed. So if the challenge or a problem is quite new for the participants and a clear understanding of the problem is lacking, a workshop can aim at an analysis of the problem from a quadruple helix perspective. If the event is organized within an initiative to facilitate the adoption of climate change solutions in a region, it is necessary to understand what the main challenges are, what is the status quo, and identify the priority areas that need to be addressed, the key actors and their roles, for example, the role of public authorities, farmers, and citizens. The outcome could be the formation of working groups or initiatives from any quadruple helix group that has agreed to continue working on the issues. If a mobilization and mutual learning workshop is organized in a context in which the problem is defined and the problem is analyzed by the participants, the event can aim to generate potential solutions. For example, in the case the regional bioeconomy strategy is discussed and the main feedstocks and value chains are already identified, the participants understand the barriers and opportunities for the development, specific solutions can be proposed, such as ensuring funding opportunities for innovative companies, enhancing collaboration with research and development, etc. What is important to say is that a mismatch between the intended outcome and output and the current status might lead to a limited number of participants or frustration if the participants are repeating what they have already said several times at different occasions, or it can result even in low quality results of the event. The selection and composition of participants for the mobilization and mutual learning is also an essential task. Mobilization and mutual learning events or workshops are usually not open events, which means that not anyone can simply join without previous registration. However, each participant has to be competent to contribute to the event through information, experience, and perspectives on the topic, and or to have some form of action potential. Additional important elements to consider are the group size and the composition of the group in terms of quadruple helix representation, as well as their level of expertise. While the number of expected participants determines the mobilization and mutual learning event format and activities, participants with a similar level of expertise and seniority will improve the chances of mutual understanding and having a fruitful discussion. So as a first step, a database of the relevant target contacts can be created containing representatives of different stakeholder groups. Then you should define the procedures to select and engage the participants. For some topics, an equal distribution of participants from the different stakeholder groups can be ensured, but there can be situations in which unequal distribution of representatives can occur. In this case, it is important to ensure at least representation of each quadruple helix, and the goal should be to ensure sufficient participation from those groups who are the most affected by an issue or a challenge in question that will be discussed in the event, and also those that are primarily engaged in the development of potential solutions. As for the level of experience, the general principle is to invite people with the right level of expertise and the right position within their organizations to tackle the topics to be addressed in the event. So to have the competencies to make decisions and also initiate some actions. As for the level of experience, it is important to invite the people with the right level of expertise and at the right position within their organizations to tackle the topics to be addressed in the event. So, for example, to make decisions or initiate an action. In case the mobilization and mutual learning event aims to define the priorities of a regional bioeconomy strategy that is being developed, it is important to invite stakeholders with good level of knowledge of the status quo, potential opportunities, as well as barriers for the bioeconomy development in the region. Having considered these aspects, you should be able to create a list of potential event participants based on the context of the event, ideally including a diversity of stakeholders. In the next step, you should select and group participants to be engaged in thematic sessions, focusing on subjects that are relevant to them. In this, it is helpful to map the participants' interests and backgrounds with the topics intended to be addressed. As already mentioned, there are different mobilization and mutual learning event formats suitable for groups of different sizes. In this picture, you can see an overview of different formats. and also the indication for which group size and for what kind of group compositions there are suitable. For example, the conference is a good format for heterogeneous as well as homogeneous groups consisting of a high number of participants. And for example, the peer reviews are suitable if you work with small groups. Peer reviews, which include peers' comments and providing feedback on each other's cases, projects, or ideas, and even exchange of good practices among different actors. The question of how covers various aspects of organizing and mobilization and mutual learning event. It includes, for example, selection of the topic and scope of the event. As explained before, for each mobilization and mutual learning event, you need to choose the topic or challenge that is most relevant for each region or country. And the topic or challenge needs to be broad and complex enough that requires a quadruple helix perspective. It is also advisable to identify a suitable context for a co-creation event. In general, it is recommendable to align your mobilization and mutual learning event to ongoing events and networks, for example, to organize the event as a satellite event of a conference. The benefits are bigger chances of attracting high quality and quantity of participants. On the other hand, the risk is that the setup of a workshop needs to be condensed depending on the given conditions, as well as the setup and needs of the network or event. In the next step, you can decide about the general setup of the event. Mobilization and mutual learning workshops are events of 3 to 4 hours that follow a structure in which a plenary and subgroup interaction. In the next step, you can decide about the general setup of the mobilization and mutual learning event. Mobilization and mutual learning events are events of 3 to 4 hours that follow a structure in which a plenary and subgroup interaction alternate. There are two possible designs of such a workshop. The first design is suitable if the event aims to analyze a problem and prioritize. This MML design is suitable for events aiming at generating a better mutual understanding of the topic by various stakeholders. This setup can be used in contexts in which no or limited contacts exist between the various stakeholders, and the understanding of the topic by stakeholders is mainly based on their own assumptions. The second design can be used if the event aims to generate potential solutions. The design is for circumstances in which the stakeholders' understanding of the problem already includes multiple perspectives. This can be the case when the participating stakeholders are already members of roundtables, working groups, or networks in which the problem has already been discussed. And due to the present knowledge among stakeholders, it is possible to expect generating potential solutions. It is necessary to select the format and activities. There is not a unique mobilization and mutual learning event format. Quite the opposite. There are a few formats and activities that could enhance the effectiveness of the event, depending on the specific goals set by the organizer. Some of the formats are listed in this table, and as you can see, they are divided into 3 groups according to the part of the event in which they can bring the biggest added value. So for the first part of the event, which is usually setting the scene, it could be the speed dating, which is a simple team building exercise frequently used at the initial stage of the event. It is encouraged for medium-large sized groups as it generates multiple brief one-on-one interactions, usually in short periods of time. To facilitate the exploration, you can consider, for example, the idea mapping, also called mind mapping, which is a visual thinking tool that usually follows a brainstorming session. It helps structure information for better comprehension and uses color, keywords, and images to generate ideas and summarize, sort, and retain information on any topic. And some of the formats suitable for the conclusion and follow-up. Dot voting and ranking are similar techniques, to prioritize ideas in a descending order. So participants usually receive a set of stickers in the shape of dots. Each participant can use, for example, maximum 3 dots to vote for the ideas he or she finds the most important. The highest number of dots represents the idea with the highest priority according to the participants, and the lowest number of dots represents the idea which the participants find the least important. Having answered the previous questions, you should be able to define the value proposition for the participants of your event. This is important to attract them to participate in your event. It is key to know the interests or stakes of all quadruple helix groups regarding the identified topics to be addressed. Breaking down the identified topics in terms of environmental, social, and economic challenges can ensure that all stakeholders' interests concerning the particular topics are covered. At this point, we would like to mention also 2 interesting tools. The Bioverse's online tool Meet provides support in the process of designing and mobilization and mutual learning and other co-creation events. This tool enables the identification and the selection of a suitable event format and corresponding exercises and activities. And the Bioverse's platform offers an interactive table that allows you to select one or more challenges in which you are interested. And based on your preferences, you can find many examples of events, mobilization, and mutual learning workshops or discussion groups where the same topic was addressed. In the next step, it is important to draft a high-quality program that should contain at least a small paragraph outlining the issue and challenges to be addressed in the event, an outline of the objectives of the event, the key guiding questions, and an agenda including information on the venue and catering if applicable. In the next step, it is advisable to develop invitations. As I mentioned before, mobilization and mutual learning events are usually not open events, which means that participants are invited. So this means that you need to create an invitation, and it is recommended that the invitation should at least contain the link to the registration, an engaging invitation text, and the program if in PDF. Also, make sure the compliance with the GDPR regulations. Then it is important to set up internal procedures for the implementations. For example, you should select a moderator and at least 2 appropriate facilitators by each thematic groups. The facilitators and also the moderator should have a sound understanding of the issues to be discussed, as well as experience in facilitation, and should be familiar with the formats and methods selected. You also need to find an attractive and functional venue. It is also important to define the roles of internal team members to make sure that everyone knows what needs to be done, and everyone. It is also important to find an attractive and functional venue and select delicious and suitable catering. During the event, it is important to make sure that the intended outputs and outcomes are clear to the participants from the beginning. So not only you can mention them in the program and invitations, but also make sure at the beginning of the event to summarize all the key information to the participants. It is also recommended to stimulate the discussion by showcasing inspiring solutions, which can be done through exhibition stands with hands-on examples and solutions. And you can also consider a series of short pitches, 5 to 6 minutes each, with the aim to present the level or the status of innovation in the targeted area, raise awareness, inform, and create the ground for stimulating discussion and potential collaboration among the participants. It is also important to ensure systematic and thorough documentation of the table discussions and proper analysis of discussion results by participants. And you should also create post-meeting analysis of event materials by the organizer and draw some conclusions in the form, for example, of policy recommendations. Then it's strongly recommended to follow up with participants by sending them, for example, a report from the mobilization and mutual learning event, or some parts of it, as well as photos and other materials. And it's also recommended to find some ways how to facilitate collaboration and networking during the event, but also after the event if the participants are interested. The last section of the presentation will present two different tools. They are designed to create a common understanding of problem affecting the bioeconomy market and to stimulate collaboration among the stakeholders along the value chain in order to find and promote shared strategies and actions. These two methodologies are specifically designed for multi-stakeholder workshops to identify challenges and bottlenecks or co-create solutions. The first tool was created by the BioOasis project and lists 12 challenges hindering the commercialization and market uptake of bio-based products. The project aimed at facilitating communication among various stakeholder groups in the form of mobilization and mutual learning events, which was seen as a way and unique opportunity for aligning bio-based applications to the needs and desires of the users and other stakeholders. The tool was developed and validated with the experts and was used in more than 70 different events. On the vertical axis are listed the 5 clusters of challenges concerning different objectives for the uptake of the bioeconomy market. On the horizontal axis, there are development stages of the bioeconomy business idea, and they represent the level of maturity of the bioeconomy product or service. As an example, a regional mobilization and mutual learning event that was organized in the UK is presented. The topic of the event was waste valorization and the bio-based economy in the Northeast in the UK. The event focused on the waste valorization sector, which is driving a wide range of bio-based areas and adoption of bio-based products. The aim of the event was to enable discussion of the challenges impacting on the 3 bio-based product development stages: business case, go-to-market, and acceleration, and identify the common issues that inhibit the realization of the bio-based alternatives. The second model to be presented was developed by the BioBridges project. The tools framework represents the value chain of any bio-based product, listing the relevant stakeholders categories, so feedstock suppliers, industry and clusters, market, so brands and retailers, and consumers. The value chain is surrounded by a supportive environment consisting of the following actors: research and education, and policy. Each stakeholders area includes many challenges represented as sections or a bubble. Inside, there are little symbols representing the additional stakeholders involved to solve this challenge. There are different aspects considered. For example, the application field. Application fields could include the food packaging, disposable products and catering, and events, personal care and cosmetics, etc. The next important element is the main feedstock. For example, the co-creation event can be focused on forestry biomass, such as cascading use of wood biomass. It is recommended to get in touch with these stakeholders in advance to better formulate or better focus the topic of the discussion. And thanks to this step, you can make sure that the subjects and topics are framed correctly to attract and motivate the potential stakeholder. And last but not least, you should also consider the expected outcomes. And also asking yourself what I would like to achieve through this event is always a good idea to evaluate critically the entire concept and analyze the participants, challenges to be addressed, questions to be raised, and supportive materials. And the last example is from the event was focused on the bio-based opportunities in the textile industry, and the application field selected was the textile products and clothing. The main feedstock in question included wool, hemp, flax, castor oil, agro-food waste, and the main stakeholders involved included industrial textile associations, bio-based clusters, regional chamber of commerce, primary research center in textile and textile industries. The level of the event was national. As you can see, the program of the event consisted of a plenary session and presentation of several case studies, which was followed by a mobilization and mutual learning session. The expected outcomes of the event included the creation of new business opportunities, identification of resistance and barriers, as well as identification of new cross-value collaboration. If you would like to learn more about how to organize a mobilization and mutual learning workshop, I strongly recommend you to visit the BioVoices online tool Meet that was already mentioned, which provides support in the process of designing the mobilization and mutual learning events. And also, to get some more inspiration, you can visit the BioVoices platform. In addition to that, below this presentation, you can find a list of resources that can be helpful if you want to dive deeper in different aspects that were mentioned in this presentation. Thank you for your attention.